Chapter 31 Classic Scrap is not simple. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Mu Zhian made his bid, the stage's tall, striking auctioneer glanced, a flicker of surprise in her eyes, toward the luxurious box. The auction house held about 100 similar private rooms, but Mu Zhian's was positioned right at the front, separated only by a sheer curtain. Even without seeing his face, she could make out his general position. Inside, the young man appeared relaxed, sipping tea in one hand while enjoying a maid's massage. Is this a fight with Yi, or does he also recognize the value of that bronze fragment? Fei Ying mused, her gorgeous eyes narrowing slightly. Bid of 500 spirit stones from guest number 3. Any higher bids, either way, it was good for business. A higher price was all that mattered. 500 spirit stones, going once, she announced, her voice smooth and captivating. She scanned the room, pausing deliberately. 500 spirit stones, going twice. Down in the audience, Yi's fists clenched as he stared at the bronze fragment. The fact that it had roused the old man inside him and urged him to buy it was proof enough of its worth, but 500 spirit stones. He wasn't Mu Zhian, able to throw money around like that. In the human realm, spirit stones were worth more than gold. 500 might be nothing to the Yi family, but for an ordinary heir like himself, it would take at least 3 months to accumulate that much. He'd only brought 700 with him today. Spending it all now meant he wouldn't be able to afford the necessary ingredients to advance to the Qi training realm later. Just as Fei Ying began to open her lips, ready to finalize the sale, Yi snapped. His heart pounded. 700 spirit stones. This was everything he had. Surely, even if Mu Zhian held a grudge, he wouldn't push things this far over a worthless piece of junk. Even for a Mu family junior, 700 spirit stones were still significant. Yi silently prayed, his eyes fixed on the bronze. Then, a carefree voice cut through the tension. 1,000 spirit stones. Yi's heart sank like a stone. A murmur rippled through the room. The Mu family's eldest son was really throwing his money around. 1,000 spirit stones for a piece of scrap metal that would probably end up unsold. Fei Ying gave the private box a knowing glance, then pursed her full, red lips. 1,000 spirit stones, going once. Yi's gaze remained glued to the bronze on stage, his face a mask of frustration. Finally, he sighed, his expression smoothing out. Congratulations, Master Mu, he said with a forced smile. That bronze fragment holds a hidden secret, and you got it for only 1,000 spirit stones. What a steal. If he couldn't have it, he could at least make Mu Zhian pay. A flicker of resentment shone in his eyes. Yi's words changed the atmosphere. Everyone had assumed Mu Zhian was just trying to get under Yi's skin, but Yi's remark sparked a new idea. Maybe there was more to it than that. After all, while the Mu family's eldest son was known for being rich and impulsive, this seemed unusually reckless. Could Yi be right? Could there really be secrets hidden within that bronze fragment? Fei Ying steadied herself on the table, her ample chest straining against her dress. She saw the change in the crowd and wisely decided to let the idea simmer. At that moment, Mu Zhian's voice drifted from the box. I just wanted to support Sister Fei Ying. But if anyone else wants it, feel free to bid 1,100 spirit stones. I'm out. His tone was casual, almost bored, but his words had a significant effect. Everyone suddenly realized that while he might have been enjoying the back and forth with Yi, Mu Zhian's real aim might have been to impress the auctioneer. Anyone else might have raised questions about the fragment's worth, but this was Mu Zhian, the notorious spendthrift of Tianxian City. Despite his recent efforts to improve his reputation, old impressions died hard. Seeing Mu Zhian defuse the situation so effortlessly, Yi struggled to contain his anger. He whirled to face the private room. Why are you always going after me, Master Mu? Master Yi, you're joking. I'm not targeting you, Mu Zhian replied calmly. This is an auction. If you can bid, why can't I? Are you saying that no one can bid against you for something you want? Mu Zhian hated that kind of self-entitled attitude. Why should he back down just because Yi wanted something? Yi was speechless, knowing he had no leg to stand on. He was using me as a shield. Fei Ying realized, recognizing Mu Zhian's game. he wanted that bronze fragment, plain and simple. All that talk about winning her favor. Just a line. She shot a quick glance at Mu Zhian's room, then looked away. Master Mu bids 1,000 spirit stones. Anyone else? That she paused, looking around the room. When no one responded, she began her countdown. In the end, the bronze fragment went to Mu Zhian. As various rare treasures were presented, Mu Zhian showed little interest. He'd come to the auction for some medicinal ingredients and to chat with Mr. Huang of the Morning Light Chamber of Commerce about funding for bandit suppression. The bronze fragment had been a complete surprise. After all, anything that a protagonist considered ordinary, usually wasn't. As for its true value, he'd figure that out later. Chapter 32. Is she the protagonist? You are listening at novelfull.audio. As the auction wrapped up, Yi Yu had snagged the herbs he needed and was now chatting with Fei Ying backstage. If I'm not mistaken, the herbs you picked up are for refining chi training pills, right? Are you about to break through to the chi training realm? Fei Ying, a tall, curvy woman, gave the young man a second look as she instructed her staff to hand over the herbs. He was almost at the chi training realm in just a few months. That kind of speed was pretty incredible. Sensing her surprise, Yi Yu felt a surge of pride but kept his face composed. He shook his head and smiled modestly. I'm just getting back to the chi training realm. It's normal to progress faster this time around. Too bad I'm short on spirit stones, Yi Yu added with a sigh. The bronze piece had ended up in Mu Zhian's hands. Asterisk, at least he probably doesn't know its true value. Asterisk, that was one of the few comforts Yi Yu could cling to. Fei Ying, are my herbs ready? A familiar voice from behind snapped Yi Yu back to reality. He turned to see Mu Zhian strolling over, guided by a maid. A gentle smile played on his handsome face, captivating the maids. Compared to Yi Yu's low-key demeanor, Mu Zhian's high profile naturally drew more attention. Fei Ying smiled and nodded. They're ready. Follow me to the side hall. Mu Zhian casually wrapped an arm around Fei Ying's slender waist, smiling. Let's go now. I've got things to do. He winked. Unless you have other plans, Fei Ying. Fei Ying narrowed her eyes, giving Mu Zhian a playful look. After a moment, she smiled softly. All right, I'll take you there now. Unlike the modest Yi Yu, Mu Zhian seemed more genuine. He expressed his desires directly. Besides, being called Fei Ying clearly pleased her. The woman in the red cheongsam, her red embroidered shoes clicking on the floor, glanced at Yi Yu. Master Yi, we hope to work with you again next time. We'll be going now. She left with Mu Zhian. Yi Yu watched the woman's alluring figure and then turned to the young man with his arm casually around her waist. For some reason, his calm was shattered. He'd always thought women would only slow down his progress, but, seeing Mu Zhian's enjoyment, Yi Yu felt a stirring within him. That enjoyable attitude seemed pretty good, actually. As they left the backstage area, Fei Ying glanced at Mu Zhian, squinting and smiling. Had enough, you little perv? If not, can we continue? Mu Zhian replied, half joking. What do you think? Fei Ying retorted, lightly pushing his hand away. Mu Zhian sighed. I spent 1,000 spirit stones on a piece of junk for you. A little comfort isn't too much to ask, is it? Fei Ying's lips curved into a charming smile. That line might work on some naive girls, but not on me. Mu Zhian feigned seriousness. If it wasn't for you, would I be buying this old metal? Fei Ying chuckled. Hard to say. As an auctioneer, Fei Ying saw all kinds of people. Mu Zhian's sweet talk might sway inexperienced girls, but it wasn't enough for her. They chatted as they walked to the side hall. Fei Ying had her staff hand over the medicinal materials and bronze piece that Mu Zhian wanted. After a moment's thought, she slipped off her ring and placed everything inside. You're giving me the ring? Mu Zhian asked, surprised. In your dreams, Fei Ying retorted, glaring at him. I'm just lending it to you. Have someone return it to me tomorrow. My sister gave it to me before she joined her sect. If you lose it, I won't forgive you. Lending such a valuable item made Mu Zhian feel more favorably disposed toward her. He nodded seriously, accepting the ring. Then he asked, who's your sister, by the way? I might know her. Fei Ying smiled, her eyes narrowing. She's very beautiful, but you wouldn't know her. She rarely left home growing up. Even after joining Liangyi sect, she didn't like to leave the grounds. She visits occasionally, but she keeps her identity a secret. Sounds mysterious, Mu Zhian muttered, and seeing she wasn't going to elaborate, he didn't press the issue. After a few more words, Mu Zhian took the ring and said goodbye. Back at the Mu mansion, after getting a maid to deliver the medicinal materials to Mr. Ren, Mu Zhian returned to his room and eagerly took out the bronze piece. He ran his fingers over its rough surface. Other than that, it seemed ordinary. The thing that caught Yi's eye can't be this simple. But how do I activate it? Mu Zhian wondered, idly playing with the piece. Unlike Yi, Mu Zhian didn't have a grandfather living inside him. Nor was he particularly lucky, so accidentally activating the piece was unlikely. The Great Elder has traveled the mainland and seen a lot. He might know what this thing is. With that thought, Mu Zhian headed to the secret room to find the Great Elder, but a guard stopped him. Young master, the Great Elder ordered not to be disturbed during seclusion. Mu Zhian's eyes flickered. The Elder is in seclusion. The guard nodded respectfully. The Great Elder rarely sees anyone. He only came out briefly to ask you to meet with him. So the Great Elder is a cultivator too. Mu Zhian nodded, somewhat disappointed. If the Great Elder is free later, please tell him I need to speak with him. The guard agreed. Unable to see the Great Elder, Mu Zhian returned to his room, determined to unlock the bronze piece's secrets himself. Passing through the courtyard, he saw Bai Ruoshi, as elegant and aloof as ever. She stood in front of the yard, wearing a long white dress with spaghetti straps that framed her shoulders. Her skin was flawless, and her face was almost perfect in profile. A few strands of hair framed her face, adding a touch of allure she hadn't shown before. Sensing Mu Zhian, she turned and smiled faintly. Master Mu, good morning. Mu Zhian nodded and walked over. You went to the Chenxi auction house this morning, didn't you? Did you find the medicinal materials? Bai Ruoshi asked, a hint of hope in her eyes. If the ingredients were found, her father could be cured within 2 days. Only her father could stabilize the Bai family. Mu Zhian twirled the bronze piece in his hand, chuckling. I did. And I got an unexpected bonus. Bai Ruoshi sighed in relief. Then, her gaze was drawn to the bronze piece in Mu Zhian's hand. She stared at it, her eyes flickering. Can I see it? Of course. But its origin is mysterious. I doubt it'll be easy to unlock its secrets. Mu Zhian broke off as Bai Ruoshi lowered her head and untied the pendant around her neck. Mu Zhian couldn't help but stare. From his angle, he had a better view than usual. Big and white, star. But then his attention was drawn to the pendant in Bai Ruoshi's hand. It was another bronze piece, shaped like a crescent moon, and it looked exactly like the one he held. As if drawn to each other, the two pieces quietly merged before their eyes. At the same time, behind Bai Ruoshi, an ancient bronze sword materialized. Radiating an intense pressure, Mu Zhian stared in shock, turning to the elegant beauty. Ruoshi, where did you get that bronze piece? Bai Ruoshi explained, it's been passed down in my family for generations. My father said it's an amulet used by our ancestors to protect the Bai family. She handed the combined bronze pendant to Mu Zhian. If you don't mind, please take this. The Tongmai pill is gone, but this might help you in the future. Just inject spiritual energy to activate its power. Mu Zhian took the pendant and toyed with it, trying to inject spiritual energy, but nothing happened. Looks like this has nothing to do with me after all. Or is it an ancient weapon only descendants of the Bai family can use? Mu Zhian quickly shrugged it off and stepped behind Bai Ruoshi. Master Mu. Bai Ruoshi started to turn, but Mu Zhian reattached the bronze pendant around her milky white neck. Since it was passed down in your family, I have no right to take it. Keep it for yourself, Mu Zhian said. Bai Ruoshi stared at Mu Zhian, her heart a mix of emotions. He had said he would only help in ways that would excite the Mu family, but now, with no benefits to the Bai family, he was still helping, and giving her the bronze piece. Remembering what Mu Zhian had done in recent days, Bai Ruoshi felt a stirring in her heart. she instinctively placed her hand over her chest, gently grasping the bronze pendant. When she looked at Mu Zhian again, her eyes had softened, and the last trace of distrust had vanished. Mu Zhian suddenly asked, "Can you try injecting spiritual energy again?" Bai Ruoshi snapped out of her thoughts and did as he asked. Behind her, the bronze sword reappeared, radiating its intense pressure. Although the pendant was just a fusion of two pieces, the power emanating from the bronze sword was on the level of the spirit-refining realm. Staring at the bronze sword and then at Bai Ruoshi, Mu Zhian was speechless. Is she the main character or something? Mu Zhian thought. Chapter 33, Anti-Bandit Feast. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It seems this bronze fragment was likely a weapon belonging to some powerful ancient figure, maybe even left behind by the Bai family's ancestors. So now Bai Ruoshi can easily activate the bronze sword's power after channeling spiritual energy into it. Mu Zhian eyed the bronze sword behind her, which seemed to pierce the very sky, and pondered, as if sensing his gaze. Bai Ruoshi's eyes flickered. A hint of bashfulness crossed her face as she asked softly, "Master Mu, why are you staring?" That while distant, aloof girls had their allure, Bai Ruoshi, made vulnerable by her family's struggles, was pretty attractive in her own way. Snapping out of his thoughts, Mu Zhian replied, "Oh, nothing. Just thinking about what's going to go down in Dragon's Head Forest in a couple of days." Abruptly changing the subject, he asked, "What level of chi training are you at now?" "8th level," Bai Ruoshi replied quietly. Mu Zhian was momentarily taken aback, glancing at the elegant girl beside him. Bai Ruoshi's recent hardships had almost made him forget that the Bai family's eldest daughter wasn't just a pretty face, she was a true genius among her peers, the enchantress from the Chenxi merchant family, the Bai family's eldest daughter, and Yiyu, the Yi family's former prodigy. These three were the most naturally gifted individuals in Tianxian City, though Yiyu was a different story. His cultivation speed was solely due to the Qi of Heaven. If activated, the bronze sword might inflict some serious damage on unprepared cultivators in the god-refining realm. Bai Ruoshi added. Mu Zhian nodded. "These days, you're barely considered a genius if you can't punch above your weight. Geniuses who can defeat stronger opponents are the real deal." Meanwhile, Mu Zhian was still stuck at the 2nd level of Qi training. It was kind of funny when you thought about it. From what he remembered, the villains in these protagonist stories were usually only slightly stronger than the main character, just enough to give the protagonist a chance to knock them down a peg. "Master Mu, are you sure you can beat Yiyu?" Bai Ruoshi asked suddenly. Mu Zhian shook his head. "Nope." He saw a flicker of concern in her beautiful eyes and couldn't resist reaching out and gently patting her head. "Whether I beat Yiyu or not doesn't really matter," Mu Zhian continued. His mind wasn't even on the competition from the start. The real focus was on cracking down on those bandits. Winning or losing against Yiyu was beside the point. "Can I come with you to Dragon's Head Forest that day?" Bai Ruoshi pressed. Mu Zhian nodded. "That's what I was hoping for. I might need your help with something." If Bai Ruoshi was only at the Qi training level, she wouldn't be much use in suppressing bandits. But if she could fight above her level and wield that bronze sword when the time came, well, that would be an unexpected ace in the hole. Hearing this, Bai Ruoshi shook her head slightly. "Young Master Mu, you don't need to be so formal. I can never repay your kindness. Just tell me what you need." Ever since Mu Zhian's visit to her father that night, Bai Ruoshi had resolved to repay his kindness, no matter what. "I'll protect you from the shadows," Bai Ruoshi added. Once the fighting broke out between the gods in Dragon's Head Forest, even Wei Mengru might not be able to keep an eye on Mu Zhian all the time, and that's where she would come in. Hearing the girl's earnest words, Mu Zhian's expression turned slightly strange. He knew Bai Ruoshi meant well, but it felt weird. They were the same age, yet she was offering to protect him. Seeming uncomfortable under his gaze, Bai Ruoshi lowered her eyes and whispered, "Young Master Mu, say something." Mu Zhian snapped out of it, smiling. "I appreciate it." His voice changed tone. "But there's no need to protect me. I have something else in mind for you to do when the time comes. And you're the only one who can pull it off." Bai Ruoshi slowly lifted her head, her eyes filled with confusion. Mu Zhian took a couple of steps forward, leaning in close to her ear and whispering something. His warm breath tickled her earlobe, causing a slight flush to rise in her cheeks, and her eyes shone even brighter in the sunlight. Only after a moment, when Mu Zhian's words had sunk in, did Bai Ruoshi slowly calm down and nod solemnly. I understand. If things go as you expect, I'll deliver the final blow. Mu Zhian nodded in satisfaction. I'm counting on you. As the two were chatting in the courtyard, a maid walked in. Seeing the cold beauty in the white dress with an ethereal air, her face flushed red, she hesitated, wondering if she was interrupting something. Speak your mind, Mu Zhian said calmly. The maid snapped to attention and said respectfully, Master, servants from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce are here, requesting an audience. Why would the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce be visiting the Mu family? Bai Ruoshi glanced at Mu Zhian, a hint of apprehension in her eyes. Mu Zhian's expression remained unchanged, betraying no surprise. He nodded and said, I see. Take them to the hall. After the maid left, Bai Ruoshi whispered, Master Mu, why would the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce? The Chenxi Chamber of Commerce had been one of the forces suppressing the Bai family, but now their servants were coming to the door. No wonder Bai Ruoshi was so concerned. Don't worry. The enemy of your enemy is your friend. Besides, the funds to suppress the bandits came from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. They're here to pay up. Mu Zhian smiled. Businessmen cared about one thing, profit. And the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce stood to gain by contributing. Even so, Mr. Huang sending 100,000 spirit stones to the Mu family before dealing with the black-robed man, had definitely surprised Mu Zhian. Upon arriving in the hall, the servant, already waiting respectfully, presented a Neji ring. Master Mu. Mu Zhian took the ring, scanned it with his spiritual sense, confirmed the number of spirit stones, and nodded in satisfaction. Thank you for your trouble. You may leave. The servant hesitated. Master Mu, Miss Feiying asked me to retrieve her Neji ring. I'll just return the ring to Sister Feiying after I've taken it, Mu Zhian said casually. After all, it was something she'd lent him, and he didn't feel right letting an outsider return it. Hearing this, the servant didn't hesitate any longer. He bowed slightly, turned, and left. Bai Ruoshi, looking confused, asked, Miss Feiying's ring. Mu Zhian shook his head and smiled. Don't worry about it. It's nothing. Let's go see how the elixir refining is coming along at Mr. Ren's place. If all goes well, you can take the elixir to see your uncle tonight. Then, the bandit suppression game would officially begin. Chapter 34. It's time to go down the mountain, senior sister. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The Yi family. Yi Yu got back to the Yi residence with the medicinal ingredients he needed. He set them down in the corner of his room, then immediately sat down, legs crossed, on his bed and closed his eyes. His face looked troubled. No wonder he was so upset that Mu Zhian snatched the bronze fragment that should have been his, and on top of that, even the auctioneer from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce was all over Mu Zhian. Yi Yu couldn't shake the image of the curvy Miss Feiying fawning over Mu Zhian, and then later, when that playboy had his arm around her, he felt a wave of jealousy he couldn't control. He always told himself that cultivation is all that matters, but seeing Mu Zhian and Feiying so close, laughing and chatting, it messed with his head. Mu Zhian seduced his fiancée and stole his thunder. He deliberately outbid him and took the bronze fragment that belonged to him. Recalling everything that went down at the auction, Yi Yu clenched his fists, veins popping on his forehead. He took a deep breath, let it out slowly, and got his emotions in check. Stay calm, don't lose it, whether it's by Ruoshi or Feiying, they'll all know soon enough who's worth knowing, but right now, all that matters is practice. Train hard, then. In the contest the day after tomorrow, he'll crush Mu Zhian fair and square and take the top spot. Meanwhile, back at the Mu residence, Mu Zhian led by Ruoshi down a corridor to an open courtyard on the grounds. There were several cauldrons of different colors arranged around the square. Mu Zhian wasn't sure exactly what each one did, but he knew that every alchemist had a few of these. For an alchemist, the cauldron was like a second life. Knowing that Master Ren didn't like to be disturbed while brewing, Mu Zhian kept his distance and found a spot to sit down and wait. Bai Ruoshi followed him, her white dress swaying in the breeze. She sat down next to him, the thin fabric revealing her skin, looking translucent and beautiful in the sunlight, but Mu Zhian wasn't paying any attention to her at that moment. He was completely absorbed by the old man working on his alchemy. Even from a distance, Mu Zhian could feel the heat coming off the cauldron. It was hot enough just standing there, let alone for the old man brewing the elixir. After about half an hour, the heat from the cauldron began to die down. The old man slowly opened his eyes, his hand rose up and gestured towards the cauldron. 6 shiny pills floated up from the cauldron. Mu Zhian thought he could almost see the faint image of a roaring beast in each one. The scent of the medicine filled the courtyard. The old man took out 2 jade vials, putting 1 pill in one, and the other 5 in the second. Then he turned to Mu Zhian, handed him the 2 vials, and smiled. 6 pills from 1 batch, not bad. Mu Zhian nodded. Thank you for your hard work, Master Ren. The old man shook his head, a rare smile on his face. Other people might think brewing is hard work, but not me. Seeing Mu Zhian didn't get what he meant, the old man chuckled and said, it's like you going to the pleasure quarters. An old man like me couldn't keep up. But for you, it's like breathing. You enjoy it. Bai Ruoshi glanced sideways at Mu Zhian. His recent behavior almost made her forget he was a regular at the pleasure quarters, though he'd been laying low lately. Knock it off. Mu Zhian forced a smile, handed one of the vials to Bai Ruoshi, and said, Ruoshi, would you mind taking this elixir to my uncle tonight? Then he took 2 pills from the other vial and gave them to the old man. Here, Master Ren, keep these. They might come in handy. The old man smiled kindly and nodded. All right. The elixir was called Huiyuan Dan. It was great for serious injuries. If you took it and refined it, it would really speed up your recovery. These might come in handy during this bandit suppression mission. You really think of everything, the old man said. The guy in the black robe was in the god-refining realm, but he wasn't as strong. Plus, there was Wei Mengru, the Bai family patriarch, and a master from the Gongsun family and the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. The guy wouldn't stand a chance, but Mu Zhian sighed and said, I still feel uneasy. The old man frowned slightly and asked, you don't think we can take him down? If it was just him, you guys would have no problem. Mu Zhian turned to the old man and smiled. But the main course is done, and there are still side dishes to serve. The black-robed guy was a common enemy, so they could all work together, but what happens after he's gone? Without a common enemy, would the group stick together? And Bai Ruoshi's mom was only in the Qi training realm. How could someone in the Qi training realm take over the 3 biggest families? There were probably other strong people backing by Yuan Feng. The old man got what Mu Zhian was saying, frowned, and said, what are you going to do? Ask those old guys for help. Mu Zhian shook his head. Only if we absolutely have to. Several of the Mu family elders were masters in the spirit refining realm, but they were all kind of weird. They were watching him closely. If Mu Zhian asked for help directly, they might say no, or they might think less of him. I have someone else in mind, Mu Zhian said. The old man was curious. Who? Mu Zhian glanced at him. Someone who always wanted to run away from home, but never did. I'll give her a reason to leave this time, but whether she wants to or not is up to her. If she does, I can thank her for the Beast King vine she gave me. Chapter 35. I didn't expect you to be such a master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. At night, Mu Zhian sat in his study, a warm glow from the candlelight spilling onto the slightly forlorn backyard visible through the window. The leaves rustled in the night wind. Wei Mengru, dressed in a pale yellow gown, stood at the yard's gate. She instructed the servants to prepare a carriage, then turned to Bai Ruoshi and whispered something. After that, she and Bai Ruoshi boarded the carriage and left the Mu residence together, escorting Bai Ruoshi to the secluded cottage where her father was staying. Mu Zhian idly turned the brush in his hand, tapped his knuckles on the table, and sighed, shaking his head. No, it's still not safe enough. He had already sent a letter to Lan Murian at Liangyi sect, asking for her help, but that was earlier in the day. Logically, even if Lan Murian refused, she should have responded by now. Was she still considering it, or did she simply not care? Or had she tacitly agreed and was already on her way to Tianxian City? If Lan Murian didn't come, he'd have to break protocol and ask the elders in seclusion for help, but Mu Zhian really didn't want to involve the elders unless absolutely necessary. First, this whole situation could be seen as a test from them. Second, even his own father might not be able to sway those elders, let alone a junior like himself. After a moment's thought, Mu Zhian pulled another paper crane from his drawer. From what he knew, this particular paper crane was one of Lan Murian's magical tools. Unlike regular ones, it was faster and could fly farther. Most importantly, it could bypass the barriers and fly directly into Liangyi sect. It was the same paper crane Lan Murian had sent him before. He had forgotten to reply then, so he could just use the blank side to write to her again. Ideally, he'd convince Lan Murian to come down the mountain. But if she refused, he'd have to find another way to keep everyone safe. As he dipped his brush in ink, Mu Zhian mentally prepared his persuasion letter, adding a few playful, teasing lines. The teasing wasn't essential, but a little flirting could help build their relationship. Lan Murian was obviously a cool beauty who wasn't one to make the first move. If he didn't take the initiative, nothing would ever happen between them. A little playful banter could also ease any awkwardness. Of course, this tactic only worked for smooth talkers. Forced flirting would just make things weird. After writing the letter, Mu Zhian folded it into a paper crane and tossed it out the window. He watched the crane soar into the air and slowly exhaled. He'd done everything he could on his end. Now, he just had to wait for news. Liangyi sect. Lan Murian, wearing a white dress and radiating a cool aura, sat in front of a pavilion. This was the back mountain of Liangyi Peak, a steep and mist-shrouded area teeming with spiritual energy. A veil covered her face, but her dress's low neckline offered a glimpse of her impressive figure. In her hand, she held a letter, her intelligent eyes scanning its contents. A ripple of emotion disturbed her normally serene gaze. This must be the paper crane Mu Zhian had sent earlier. The letter outlined his recent troubles, casually mentioning a man in black robes who posed a threat, before going on to describe the highlights and delicacies of Tianxian City. Basically, Mu Zhian was bending over backward to invite her to the Mu family as a guest, offering her the Huiyuan pill he had refined as an added incentive. His sincerity was clear, judging from his tone. Still, despite all the flowery language, Lan Murian cut right to the chase. So, he just wants me to bail him out when things get rough? Why does he have to beat around the bush? Lan Murian immediately saw through Mu Zhian's intentions. She folded the paper crane and slipped it into her ring. Then, she stood up and left the back mountain. Sometimes it's like that. Even if you know someone's flattery isn't entirely genuine, it still makes you feel good and gives you a better impression of them. Lan Murian knew Mu Zhian was trying to butter her up, but she couldn't help but feel a little more favorably towards him. As she passed a certain peak, she noticed a sect disciple in the distance. When the disciples saw Lan Murian, their eyes filled with admiration. It wasn't just the male disciples, most of the female disciples also respected the reclusive disciple of the sect master. This was partly due to her status and extraordinary talent. But also, although senior sister Lan seemed cold and unapproachable, she was actually quite kind. She occasionally stepped in to help sect disciples with their problems. However, most of them had never seen Lan Murian's face. "Sister, are you going down the mountain?" Lan Murian paused, nodded slightly, and said, "There are demons lurking near the town, I'm going to take care of it." In his letter, Mu Zhian had described the man in black robes. While she couldn't be certain he was a demon, based on what Mu Zhian said, he was likely an evil cultivator. Demons. The female disciple repeated the word, stealing a glance at the slender woman in white. Everyone in the sect knew that senior sister Lan rarely left the mountain, and even if there were demons, other disciples would handle it. It all seemed a little suspicious. Then, Lan Murian shook her head, her lips curving into a faint smile beneath her veil. "Actually, it's more like I'm skipping town." Mu Zhian didn't realize that, invited or not, she would have found an excuse to visit Tianxian City soon. It wasn't exactly to skip town, but more to visit her sister and catch up. Her original plan was to head down in a couple of months, but since Mu Zhian had already asked, she might as well take the opportunity. Lan Murian performed a hand seal, summoned a cloud, and soared away. As Lan Murian left Liangyi sect, she didn't notice that another paper crane quietly slipped past the barriers, flying over the high peaks towards the back mountain pavilion under the cover of darkness. Finally, the paper crane landed on a black and white chessboard. A beautiful woman in a black dress paused mid-move. She picked up the paper crane, her eyes showing a flicker of confusion. Then, a faint smile touched her lips as she slowly unfolded it. Chapter 36. I want to hug your thighs. 5K, 1/2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. That night, Wei Men grew escorted by Ruoshi to her father's cabin. Ruoshi's gaze went straight to her father, who was resting in bed. She took a step forward, her eyes filled with worry, and placed a jade bottle in his hand. Dad, this is Huiyuan Dan. Take it, it'll help you heal. He slowly opened his eyes, surprised at her words. He looked down at the bottle and asked, Huiyuan Dan. You got the Beast King Vine? Ruoshi nodded. Master Mu went to Liangyi sect yesterday. I don't know how he did it, but he got it. Mr. Ren refined the Huiyuan Dan today. A flicker of surprise crossed his face. He knew his daughter wouldn't joke about something like this, but it was still hard to believe. He opened the bottle, and a potent medicinal aroma wafted out. It really is Huiyuan Dan. His eyes widened. With this, he could recover overnight and wouldn't have to lie here like a vegetable anymore. Beyond the surprise, he was puzzled. The Beast King Vine only grows in Liangyi sect. Outsiders can't get it, and even the disciples there rarely see such valuable materials. How did Mu Zhian manage to get it? No matter what, he owed the Mu family, specifically Mu Zhian, a huge favor, and the reason for the help was probably Ruoshi. He sighed, looking at his daughter. Ruoshi, you've been through so much lately. Ruoshi shook her head. Master Mu has been a huge help. I haven't really done anything. Her eyes softened as she spoke. He noticed her reaction and the softened look when she mentioned Mu Zhian. He sighed inwardly. He'd always thought Yi would be successful, and Ruoshi might regret her choices, but Mu Zhian's actions in the last few days had him second-guessing, getting the Beast King Vine in less than a day. Maybe the eldest son of the Mu family wasn't as useless as everyone thought. Ruoshi worriedly asked, by the way, Dad, what are you going to do about Mom? He fell silent. After a long pause, he sighed. It's the least I can do to apologize. I'll talk to her later. Ruoshi's feelings were mixed. Yuanfeng was her mother, after all. Even if she'd done terrible things, she couldn't just cut her off. It wasn't about being a saint, it was the accumulated weight of family, a bond not easily broken. The atmosphere was heavy, so Ruoshi broke the silence. Dad, how did you and Mom meet? His eyes lit up a little. Your mom. He looked up, a nostalgic expression on his face. She was brought back to the Bai family from outside. The elders gave her that name. According to them, when she was a child, a purple light fell from the sky, and the area filled with demonic energy. Your grandfather worried she'd be corrupted, so he sealed the energy. It's been peaceful since then. I just never expected. He sighed. He thought after all these years, Bai Yuanfeng would have some feelings for him, but she was actually plotting against the Bai family, trying to take over the 3 clans. It was the first time Ruoshi had heard this story. She was stunned. Then, realizing something, she looked up. So, Mom was like a child bride? Not exactly. He shook his head. Many people were after your mom, including me. But later, because I became the patriarch. He trailed off. He had to save face in front of his daughter. He didn't want to admit he'd used his position to woo Bai Yuanfeng. You should go back to the Mu family with Miss Wei. I'll feel better knowing you're safe. He added, but remember, if that Mu boy comes to your room at night saying he wants to chat, don't believe him. Ruoshi's face flushed. Her eyes darted around, and she lowered her gaze shyly. Dad, what are you saying? Master Mu isn't like that. If he wanted to, he could have done it already. If he were that type, he could have made a move in the carriage. He didn't need to wait until now. Feeling both annoyed and helpless that his daughter was defending Mu Zhian, he just gave her a long look and shook his head. If Mu Zhian had tried something before, he might have gotten her body, but now, He could get the heart and soul of the most beautiful woman in Tianxian City. He could tell just by looking at Ruoshi's reaction. Mu Zhian was oblivious to their conversation. He took a bunch of spirit stones from his storage ring, placed them on the bedside, and sat cross-legged on the bed. As the cauldron within him whirred to life, the stones quietly transformed into purified spiritual energy, which he absorbed. That's the benefit of spirit stones. Normally, during cultivation, the spiritual energy in the air needs to be purified before absorption, but spirit stones are purified energy. Skipping that step saved at least 4 to 5 times the training time. Winning or losing the competition wasn't important, but he'd wasted too much time on women and wanted to catch up. After nearly 2 hours, the stones disappeared, and Mu Zhian felt the energy in the cauldron was almost a third full. He opened his eyes, raised his hand, and pushed out a palm. Bang. The door flew open with a clearly audible creak. He took a deep breath and exhaled slowly. The energy swirled around him. Each breath he took pulled more of it into his body, filling him with comfort. Being able to learn from the old and use the new, and turn the spiritual energy into real power, was the third level of Qi training. At the peak of it, you could even levitate objects and instantly recall weapons from a distance. Reaching the refining spirit realm would allow flight with a sword. Like Wei Mengru, it felt incredible. The difference between the second and third levels of Qi training was huge. Mu Zhian looked at his palms, satisfied. He calmed himself, closed his eyes, and meditated again. The next morning, Mu Zhian was at the training grounds, practicing martial arts with the maid. He'd been lazy because of his obsession with women, but his foundation was solid. Combined with Wei Mengru holding back, they were evenly matched at first. But Wei Mengru wasn't great at hand-to-hand combat. She switched to magic attacks, blinding him with dazzling light. He was exhausted. Hold on. Seeing her about to strike, Mu Zhian raised his hand, stopping her with his voice. Her palm hung in front of his face, tilting her head, waiting for him to speak. Don't you know you don't hit a guy in the face? He glanced at her hand and said seriously, no more fighting. Let's rest. I need to ask you something. She glanced at her palm, then at him. After a moment, she nodded and didn't deliver the blow. Mu Zhian sat down and looked at her. When you took Bai Ruoshi home last night, did you feel like you were being followed? I would have noticed immediately. She paused. Unless they were at least one level above me. Wei Mengru was in the refining spirit realm. The next level was returning to the void. In the mortal world, those were like land gods, incredibly rare. He nodded. Wei Mengru was a top investigator and counter-reconnaissance expert. Basically, an assassin. If she said she didn't see anyone, he trusted her, he believed her. But he still felt uneasy. If that guy in the black robe doesn't show up today, I'll wonder if he has a backup plan, or maybe he just doesn't care about Yu. Her eyes flashed, considering that. The 100,000 spirit stones probably went to the Gongsun family, right? She asked coldly. She knew about those stones. Even to her, 100,000 was a lot. She couldn't understand why Mr. Huang would send them to the Mu family. Those stones were for the Mu family only. Nothing to do with the Gongsuns, he said. You mean the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce will send them money again in the future? I don't know. If Mr. Huang is smart, he won't. Businessmen are frugal, but great ones have a strategic vision. They look to the future and are willing to spend a little to make a lot. He gave the money only to us. That shows he respects us. He sees the Gongsuns as equals, so there's no need to pay them off. And, whether Mr. Huang's money includes a share for the Gongsuns or not, we're acting like it doesn't. Because it doesn't. He continued. She glanced at him. Are you going to pocket it? How can you call it pocketing, Sister Mengru? He turned to her, meeting her gaze. He smiled gently. We earned it with our own sweat. How could the cost of suppressing bandits be considered embezzlement? It was confiscation. Meanwhile, Mr. Huang was sitting in the hall, legs crossed, drinking tea. Beside him, the beautiful woman looked unhappy, sighing frequently. She looked sad. Why are you sighing? Mr. Huang said, looking at his wife. Master, we gave those stones to the Mu family and got nothing in return. How long will it take to earn them back? She sighed, her eyes pained. What do you mean, nothing in return? He shifted and gave her a strange look. Someone is hindering our business. We have to remove the obstacle to keep making money. If we didn't give them the stones, we might have to give even more later, he added. Her eyes flickered, and she looked at him, but he didn't explain. He changed the subject. Did you tell the servants to notify Mr. Tian? That she nodded. Mr. Tian agreed to go to Dragonhead Forest tomorrow. But master, why are we working so hard after paying the money? That he glanced at her, shook his head, and sighed. We lost that money. But over the next month or two, they'll slowly pay it back into our pockets, so in the end, we still profit. Seeing that she seemed to understand, he didn't explain further. He tapped the edge of the chair, looked forward, and thought. Time passed, and as Mu Zhian expected, the black-robed man came to the Mu family that night. Well, he couldn't be called the black-robed man anymore. After the Gongsons offered a reward for his capture, he'd stopped wearing black. Now, he wore a plain robe and a hat. Master Mu, are you sure about tomorrow? He stared at Mu Zhian with cold eyes from under the hat. He knew how Mu Zhian had tricked Yi into going to Dragonhead Forest. Mu Zhian smiled. Does winning or losing matter? That if Mu Zhian hadn't remembered his past and this was a normal competition, he'd be provoking Yi and getting slapped down by the protagonist. But now, this game had nothing to do with Yi. No matter how strong and lucky the chosen one was, being able to fight Qi training cultivators was already the limit. As for the next level, the refining spirit realm, the distance between refining essence and refining spirit was like an elephant and an ant. There was no chance even the protagonist couldn't do it, the black-robed man sneered. That's true. Then look forward to tomorrow's performance, Master Mu. He turned into black mist and disappeared. After he was gone, Mu Zhian looked at the shadow in the corner. He could vaguely see a graceful figure and a huge heart. Are you sure? Wei Mengru asked. He shook his head. I just said winning or losing isn't important. So, you're not sure? She understood. You must have a trump card, she reminded. I know, but I have one too, he said seriously. What? Her eyes were confused. She thought she knew him well, but she'd never heard of any trump cards. He waved her over. It's a secret. The girl in the yellow skirt walked over and asked, what is it? He whispered something, so quietly she couldn't hear. Wei Mengru frowned and leaned closer. Then, he leaned close to her ear and whispered, don't you still have me? His warm breath touched her earlobe, and in the dim light, it looked slightly pink. She realized he was teasing her. She glared at him. Relying on others isn't a trump card. It's just being a gigolo. Her tone was cold, but a faint blush covered her face. What's wrong with being a gigolo? It's great, he smiled. He not only wanted to rely on Wei Mengru, but also hug senior sister Lan's thigh tomorrow if possible. No words were spoken that night. The next morning, the people of Tianxian City were living their lives, unaware that at this very moment, Dragonhead Forest was about to become a battlefield. Chapter 37 Hehehe, times have changed, sir. 1/2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Dragonhead Forest. This forest sits to the west of Tianxian City. From above, you'd see it's shaped exactly like a dragon's head. The place is crawling with monsters, so most folks wouldn't dare go near it. Still, cultivators sometimes venture in to hunt monsters for materials, though plenty of them wind up dead. Yi, cloaked in black, stood at the forest's edge, his gaze fixed on the approaching carriage. He recognized it. The Mu family, *, here we go. Yi took a deep breath, a fire of war burning in his eyes. He'd been waiting for this day. Sleep had been elusive. Every night he practiced, trying to close the gap between himself and Mu Zhian, and revenge. He wasn't sure how much of a threat Mu Zhian really posed. The guy had been living it up, chasing pleasure for the past 2 years. But if he kept his cool and played it smart, it shouldn't be too tough. Yi straightened up. A good-looking young man hopped down from the carriage. He had dark hair and a slightly delicate air, giving off a friendly, boy-next-door vibe, but, it was all an act, he was just a spoiled young master, obsessed with pleasure, no matter how good his disguise, that wouldn't change. Stay calm, take him down, and crush him. Just as Yi Yu thought this, ready to speak, he saw Mu Zhian walk around to the other side of the carriage and reach out a hand. A slender, pale hand gently rested in Mu Zhian's palm. Then, the carriage curtain was drawn back, revealing a pair of white cloth boots. Her skirt, ending just below the knees, showed off slender, jade-like legs. Her profile was flawless, 2 strands of hair framing a face with peach blossom eyes. It was Bai Ruoshi, the woman who had once captivated every young talent in Tianxian City. She clearly noticed Yi Yu watching, but only gave him a brief glance before looking away. This indifference stung Yi Yu. She'd never given him the time of day. But back then, she hadn't shown Mu Zhian any special treatment either. Now, though, she seemed almost subservient to him, even letting him hold her hand. Yi Yu's fists clenched, anger bubbling inside. He didn't even realize his nails were digging into his palms. Mu Zhian, he finally said, his anger barely contained. He seems anxious. Mu Zhian noticed everything, but wasn't bothered. He had Bai Ruoshi wait by the carriage, then strolled over to observe Yi Yu. Truth was, Mu Zhian had been waiting for this day too. Get rid of this protagonist, and maybe the supporting role tag on his interface would finally disappear, but he wasn't nearly as worked up about it as Yi Yu. He had accepted things from the start. If this protagonist really was unstoppable, he'd just roll with it. He would enjoy life while he could, indulge in everything he could, making sure the trip was worthwhile. But if he happened to win, even better, vanquish Yi Yu, lose the supporting role label, and become the protagonist of this new world, use the Mu family's resources to reach the peak of qi refining, go to Lianyi sect, and maybe even become an emperor someday. First, though, he had to deal with the protagonist. Standing right in front of him. You're here early, Mu Zhian said with a smile. Yi Yu glared at Mu Zhian, ignoring the comment. Mu Zhian, seeing the young man's composure, continued, I was chatting with Ruoshi last night, and the night just slipped away. Yi Yu's face darkened. It's just a pointless exchange between a shallow woman and the Mu family's playboy. What's it got to do with me? Mu Zhian chuckled. She just doesn't like you. How does that make her shallow? You think women should revolve around you? Stop with the hypocrisy. You know why she chose you, Yi Yu said, his voice rising. Mu Zhian shook his head, still smiling. You've said it before, that Miss Bai broke off the engagement and insulted you, but that was a childhood arrangement. She had no choice. Is pursuing her own feelings really such a crime? Mu Zhian went on, and don't forget, what was Ruoshi's attitude towards me back then? This chosen one seemed to be missing something. He thought breaking off the engagement was unforgivable, that Bai Ruoshi should have just married into the Yi family, and that she shouldn't have been so cold to him. He acted as if Bai Ruoshi was his personal property and the world should revolve around him. He couldn't see why Bai Ruoshi would reject him. Master Yi, if you beat me today, who would Ruoshi choose? Mu Zhian twisted the knife. Yi Yu finally snapped. He lunged forward, moving faster than a second-level qi training cultivator. If Mu Zhian hadn't drained the energy from those spirit stones the night before, he'd have been in real trouble. Mu Zhian raised a hand, sending a shockwave towards Yi Yu. Third-level qi training. Surprise flickered in Yi Yu's eyes, but he didn't slow down. He pushed himself to the limit, drawing energy to his fingertips. Clang, star, the heavy sword on his back flew into his hand, and he swung it at Mu Zhian. It was a sudden attack, but Mu Zhian was ready, drawing his own sword to block. The weapons clashed, sending a wave of energy outward. The difference in cultivation level was clear. Mu Zhian exuded the pressure of the qi training realm, summoning the surrounding spiritual energy into sharp blades that hurtled towards Yi Yu. Yi Yu's face changed. He circulated his heavenly qi, creating a thin film around himself that dissolved the incoming blades, scattering them. Mu Zhian showed no emotion, giving Yi Yu no time to recover, and swung his sword again. But Yi Yu was too quick. Like a ghost, he dodged every blow. Although qi training cultivators have more spiritual energy, Yi Yu avoided several attacks, leaving Mu Zhian winded. Bai Ruoshi watched the scene with a frown, a hint of surprise in her eyes as she looked at Yi Yu. Though he was still in the essence refining realm, his movements and speed were close to those in the chi refining realm. Her father was right, Yi Yu was a genius, but none of that mattered to her. She broke off the engagement because she didn't like the marriage, not because Yi Yu had lost his potential. As Yi Yu dodged another sword, Mu Zhian grew paler. His previous indulgences were catching up with him. After so many attacks, Mu Zhian was exhausted. Yi Yu, equally pale, sweat on his forehead, and breathing heavily, stared at Mu Zhian and said, "So this is a chi training cultivator?" "No," Yi Yu shook his head, adding, "You're just exhausted from too much pleasure. It wouldn't be this easy against a real chi training cultivator." The flat tone and slight disdain would have angered anyone, but Mu Zhian just smiled, saying, "True enough. I suppose being obsessed with pleasure did affect my performance. And chatting with Ruashi all night did take a lot out of me." Yi Yu's eyes widened, the last comment breaking his composure. Spiritual energy surged through his body. Mu Zhian saw Yi Yu take a pill and swallow it. Yi Yu looked up, his pale face regaining color. "Master Mu, I forgot to mention. I'm also an alchemist." That besides practicing, he'd been preparing medicinal ingredients and refining pills for this fight. Yi Yu stepped back and then, like a stream of light, attacked Mu Zhian, his eyes full of cruelty as he swung his heavy sword. To show mercy to the enemy was to leave yourself with danger. Yi Yu was going to kill him. Seeing the murderous intent, Bai Ruashi subconsciously gripped her skirt, staring at Mu Zhian. Her spiritual energy was stirring, lifting her skirt. Mu Zhian was in bad shape. If she didn't intervene, he might die. But then, Bai Ruashi noticed something was off. Not only Yi Yu, but Mu Zhian's depleted energy was also recovering, and much faster. Yi Yu's sword was deflected by Mu Zhian, the swords fell, and Mu Zhian punched Yi Yu in the gut. A shockwave sent leaves fluttering, startling birds in the forest. Yi Yu flew back, slamming into the base of a tree. He spat out blood, stared at Mu Zhian in disbelief, and saw him open his mouth. In Mu Zhian's mouth was a recently refined Huiyuan pill. "Master Yi, when did you get the idea that you were the only one with a recovery pill?" Mu Zhian asked calmly. Huiyuan pill. Yi Yu, clutching his chest, stared at Mu Zhian, disbelieving. As an alchemist, he knew the value of the Huiyuan pill. Even the Mu family couldn't find Beast King Vine. And Mu Zhian had one. Behind him, Bai Ruashi stepped forward, asking softly, "Are you all right?" Mu Zhian shook his head. "I got lucky. I'm fine." He glanced at Bai Ruashi, his gaze lingering on her face. Something had occurred to him. If he hadn't stopped Yi Yu from buying the bronze piece at the auction, would Yi Yu now be using the bronze sword? According to rumors, the bronze sword was passed down from the Bai family's ancestors, and Yi Yu was the chosen one. Judging from his desire for the bronze piece, he'd have activated its power. If that were the case, Mu Zhian wouldn't be standing there. It would be Yi Yu, because the bronze sword that Bai Ruashi had sacrificed back then, when it was still a single piece, was as strong as a peak chi training cultivator. 2 pieces were equivalent to a spirit refining expert. Wasn't that a growth-oriented technique exclusive to the protagonist? Good thing I'm a pay-to-win player. No matter how lucky Yi Yu was, with money, he would be the one to get the bronze piece. Mu Zhian sighed inwardly, watching as the injured boy got up after taking a few more pills. Bai Ruashi frowned, saying softly, "That's enough, Yi Yu. There's no deep hatred. There's no need to fight to the death. This match is over." "Over?" A faint smile touched Yi Yu's face, and when he looked up, a strange light gleamed in his eyes. During the fight, the old man sleeping inside him had awakened. If the old man took over, even if Mu Zhian and Bai Ruashi joined forces, they wouldn't be a match. Though the old man was injured, his strength was still at the spirit refining level. "Leave it to you, master," Yi Yu whispered. The old man chuckled in Yi Yu's mind, saying, "If I step in, I can't guarantee the kid's safety." "Are you sure?" Yi Yu nodded. A terrifying aura erupted, sending the monsters in the forest into a frenzy of fear, the birds scattering. Bai Ruashi frowned, whispering, "Be careful. He's acting strange." Mu Zhian chuckled, "Strange is right. If he wasn't, I'd be worried. He was the chosen one, after all. You couldn't be a protagonist without some kind of cheat code, but, when the supporting role has intelligence, there's no chance for the protagonist to win in a one-on-one showdown. Mu Zhian looked up, seeing Yi Yu standing a short distance away. He smiled, saying, "Changed, have you?" Yi Yu said slowly, "This is one of my trump cards. Don't blame me, Master Mu." As long as he dealt with Mu Zhian, anything was worth it. Mu Zhian agreed, "That's right. The result is what matters. As long as you win, that's enough. As for whether you cheated, that doesn't matter." Seeing Yi Yu step forward, Mu Zhian changed his tone, asking, "But, Master Yi, haven't you considered something?" Yi Yu paused, frowning. He felt uneasy. He stared at Mu Zhian, murderous intent radiating from him, and stepped forward, reaching for Mu Zhian. Mu Zhian stood still, saying calmly, "Why do you think only enemies of the same level will bother you?" "Times have changed, Master Yi." The moment the words left his lips, Yi Yu felt an unprecedented danger from above. Looking up, he saw a man in a bamboo hat falling from the sky, throwing a chain. Before Yi Yu could react, the chain wrapped around him. Dark light enveloped Yi Yu, as if forming a cocoon. Then, a ball of milky white light floated out. "Heavenly Chi. My heavenly Chi. Who are you? Who are you?" Yi Yu's terrified voice came from within the cocoon. His heavenly Chi had chosen him, so why was it leaving? "Your heavenly Chi," the man in black sneered. "You're just a little luckier than most. You don't deserve to possess it. Heavenly Chi only chooses those with the best luck. You're lucky, but only in Tianxian City." The black-robed man reached out a pale hand, grabbing the heavenly Chi. "I'm the one who should possess it." He said it as if it were a fact. As he reached out, the heavenly Chi pulsed, resisting him, but the black-robed man was prepared. He pulled out a jade-mouthed bottle and sucked the heavenly Chi inside. It all happened in an instant. Ruashi, stunned, could only watch. The black-robed man turned to the pale young man, sneering, and said, "Thank you for your cooperation, Master Mu." Though his face was still pale, Mu Zhian smiled. That was the agreed-upon reward. There was no cooperation involved. The black-robed man nodded slightly, saying, "Master Mu is a man of his word." He changed his tone, adding, "So I've decided to give Master Mu a surprise." His eyes flashed with cruelty. "Oh?" Mu Zhian looked surprised, asking, "A surprise? What is it?" The surprise is that Mu Zhian secretly challenged Yi Yu to a duel in Dragonhead Forest, killed him over by Ruashi, raped the Bai family's daughter, and died in a beast tide. The black-robed man said sinisterly. "You're framing me?" Mu Zhian looked frightened. The black-robed man smirked, ready to speak, but then, Mu Zhian changed the subject, saying, "I'll give you a surprise too. How about it?" Chapter 38 Translation What the hell is a surprise? You are listening at novelfull.audio. When Mu Zhian finished, the man in the black robe was stunned. Then, spotting the old man who'd quietly appeared behind Mu Zhian, he hesitated, then his unease faded, and he sneered, "This is your big surprise?" That it was Mr. Ren, the Mu family's retainer. He was the Mu family's trump card, a fact the man in black already knew, and he had a countermeasure ready for this old man. A spirit refinement cultivator was definitely a pain, but not insurmountable, at least, not for someone as prepared as him. Regaining his composure, the black-robed man fixed Mu Zhian with a chilling stare and said slowly, "So, the Mu family's retainer has been escorting you all the way to Dragonhead Forest. Seems Master Mu doesn't trust me very much." Mu Zhian looked at the man like he was crazy. "Would you trust an outsider who won't even give his name?" The black-robed man seemed taken aback, then burst out laughing. "True, ha ha ha. I always saw you as a useless young master obsessed with pretty girls. Guess I underestimated you. Even a useless young master knows how to play the long game. I went to all this trouble to help you chase Miss Bai. Master Mu really isn't showing any gratitude. The girl I pursued, the effort I put in, how can you take credit for that?" Mu Zhian chuckled. "Who are you working for?" A cold glint entered the black-robed man's eyes. He slowly raised his hand. Looks like Master Mu isn't too impressed with the surprise I already gave you. The words were barely out of his mouth when an astonishing murderous aura exploded from him. Mu Zhian felt a sudden chill down his spine, his eyes locked on the black-robed man. The man's figure seemed to twist, then a second man in black robes emerged from behind him. Unlike the first man, who wore a bamboo hat, this one's black robe seemed to radiate cold. He had a pair of chilling, snake-like vertical pupils. One glance was enough to make anyone feel like they were staring at a venomous beast. A monster? Bai Ruoshi almost shouted. The aura emanating from this second man in black robes was the chilling presence unique to monsters. Monsters were a powerful force in this world. While the Liangyi sect was in Dongzhou, the monster kingdom lay in Beizhou, where the two had frequent border skirmishes, and Tianxian city was close to the Liangyi sect. That meant monsters were infiltrating even here. It looked like the Monster King had big plans. Beizhou was practically a full-blown monster kingdom, a place of rampant demons ruled by a queen said to be a giant sky-swallowing python from ancient times. In her human form, she was a bewitching white snake, and countless monsters and evil cultivators were eager to grovel at her feet. This wasn't just because of her strength. Her own powers of seduction played a big part. No wonder this guy seemed off. He's a monster. A flicker of surprise showed in Mu Zhian's eyes for the first time. So that was the other party's backup plan. From the beginning, there had been more than one black-robed man. That was why the first black-robed man had been so confident. Two spirit refinement cultivators. Even if Elder Ren of the Mu family could hold one off, the other could wreak havoc. Monsters were naturally saturated with spiritual energy. Their bloodline gave them a massive advantage. Cultivators of the same level stood little chance. And judging by appearances, besides Elder Ren, there were only Mu Zhian and Bai Ruoshi. Two Qi refinement spirit realm cultivator weren't enough to fend off demon cultivators in the spirit refinement realm. Master Mu didn't seem surprised enough before, so, is this surprise sufficient? The black-robed man spoke slowly, a hint of mockery in his voice. That cold look was like a cat toying with a mouse, and it was true. Generally, even large families wouldn't have more than 2 or 3 spirit refinement cultivators. The 2 high-grade demon cultivators in the spirit refinement realm were enough to sweep everything in the current environment. As he said this, the black-robed man's gaze flickered to Bai Ruoshi, a hint of greed in his cold eyes. He had no interest in humans, but this girl had such a dense spiritual energy. If he could refine her into a cauldron, it would significantly boost his strength. As for Mu Zhian, later, he would make that brat wish he'd never been born. A spirit refinement cultivator had been outsmarted by a mere Qi refinement realm kid, and now he was a laughingstock. He couldn't even wear his black robes in public anymore. This great insult demanded revenge. 2 demon cultivators in the spirit refinement realm. I'm genuinely surprised. Mu Zhian looked at the 2 black-robed men and sighed, seemingly in shock, but the terrified expression was fading, replaced by his usual calm tone. The black-robed man frowned involuntarily. For some reason, he suddenly felt uneasy. He'd imagined Mu Zhian's reaction to the 2 demon cultivators in the spirit refinement realm: fear, terror, maybe even a desperate attempt to flee. That's how people usually reacted. He'd give them a sliver of hope, let them think they could escape his grasp, then crush them in the end. He wanted to see Mu Zhian's despair. But the other party's expression was so indifferent that it was unnerving. Something was wrong. How could a 3rd-level Qi training kid show no fear? The black-robed man's eyes flickered. Almost at that moment, the demon cultivator accomplice beside him raised his hand and slapped Mu Zhian. Elder Ren snorted and returned the blow with a palm strike in the air. The resulting shockwave roiled the surroundings, and the 2 quickly separated. The black-robed demon cultivator's body surged with demonic energy, engulfing Elder Ren as they engaged in a fierce battle. The black-robed man still faced Mu Zhian. Seeing no sign of Mu Zhian trying to escape, he suddenly felt a flicker of fear and his eyes shifted. It was more important to bring the heavenly Qi back to Her Majesty the Queen. Failure would mean trouble. The black-robed man thought this, but he was still unwilling. His pale, dry palm shot out from his robe and struck fiercely at Mu Zhian. Clang, starred at a crisp, pleasant chime rang out. The black-robed man looked and saw that the Bai family's eldest daughter, who was also in the Qi training realm, had an ancient bronze sword behind her. its surface covered in intricate patterns, an oppressive, heart-pounding sensation radiated from the bronze sword. The inviolable sense of majesty made the black-robed man's pupils contract. This bronze sword, its strange star. The black-robed man stared at Bai Ruoshi. Though inwardly shocked and angry, he remained calm on the surface. He said slowly, "So that's it. She's your confidence, Master Mu. In the end, you still have to rely on a woman." He sneered, his tone sarcastic. Mu Zhian wasn't bothered. He simply smiled calmly. "I have a woman to rely on. What about you?" "Oh, you don't have a partner." "My mistake." Mu Zhian's words broke through the black-robed man's composure. The black-robed man's eyes flared with murderous intent, and he punched again, but Bai Ruoshi's bronze sword stood between them. With a clang, the sword formed a protective barrier, blocking the attack. Looks like someone's feeling lonely. Mu Zhian grinned. "Don't be so impatient. The surprise I mentioned earlier, it's still coming." Looking at the young man's calm smile, the black-robed man's eyes flickered, and his sense of foreboding deepened. He spun around and flew towards the sky. Just then, a deafening voice like thunder boomed from below, "Come and go as you please. What do you think this is, your personal playground?" The black-robed man looked up sharply. 3 more cultivators, flying on swords, had appeared in the sky, 2 spirit refinement cultivators from the Gongsun family and a spirit refinement master from the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce. The black-robed man's pupils shrank to pinholes. He turned and tried to escape in the opposite direction, but as he turned his head, he saw a girl in a goose-yellow dress standing there quietly, waiting for him. She carried a thin sword on her back, her expression cold, her calm eyes filled with indifference. Another spirit refinement cultivator. The man in black robes felt like he'd woken up to find himself the enemy of the entire world. He whipped his head around and stared at Mu Zhian, saying each word with venom, "You set me up." A young man from the Mu family had secretly allied with the 3 major families. No one would have imagined it. I wouldn't call it setting you up. To use your own words, it's a surprise. Mu Zhian said, "Now, I want you to explain. What exactly is the surprise you're talking about?" Chapter 39. Is the bandit suppression over? 1/2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The big surprise? Monks at the god-refining realm stepped up, saved Tianxian City's people, offed the black-robed dudes, and restored order. Gongsun Xiong's booming laughter echoed like thunder across the sky. You not only attacked the Bai family head but secretly oppressed the entire family. And to top it off, you dressed up as the Gongsun family to loot homes and steal treasure. What punishment does a demonic cultivator like you deserve? Gongsun Xiong thundered on. Instead of getting riled up, the black-robed man just smirked. So, the Gongsun family's squeaky clean, huh? Now you want to pin all your dirty deeds on me? The Gongsun family's never been about the money grab. That's all you black-robed guys, Gongsun Xiong said, hands clasped behind his back, looking down on the man with ice in his voice. Beside him, a Gongsun family guest gave the black-robed man the same chilly once-over. Next to Gongsun Xiong, a slightly older guy floated and drawled, "Since the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce hired me, I gotta at least pretend to be useful, right?" Barely conscious inside his cocoon, you started to get it. Roaring into the darkness, he yelled. "Mu Zhian, are you kidding me?" The truth finally hit Yu. He felt like the world's biggest chump. All along, Mu Zhian hadn't even considered him a real threat. Their so-called fight was just a warm-up act. Mu Zhian never took him seriously. Even winning or losing didn't matter to Mu Zhian. The guy only cared about what benefited him. From start to finish, the black-robed man was Mu Zhian's real target. Boom. Instantly, 3 figures blurred into motion in the sky. In the distance, Wei Mengru followed suit, a lethal blur heading straight for the black-robed dude. All the god-refining realm monks piled on. Gongsun Xiong raised a hand, and a wave of intense heat slammed into the black-robed man, slowing him down like he was moving through molasses. But the black-robed dude knew how to fight dirty. He snapped his head up, locked eyes with Gongsun Xiong, and lunged straight for him, right through the air. He shot out his right hand, and a dark chain burst from his sleeve, wrapping around Gongsun Xiong. That chain sucked the spiritual energy right out of Gongsun Xiong's core. Gongsun Xiong thrashed, bellowing, "Help me out here, or we're all going down together." Mr. Tian, the Chenxi Chamber of Commerce guest, didn't hesitate anymore. Seizing the opening, he delivered a haymaker right to the black-robed dude's head. The impact made the man's head ring, sending him flying into the ground and carving a crater. The chains binding Gongsun Xiong fell away. Gongsun Xiong glowered down at the man in the hole, a cold fire in his eyes, and unleashed a wave of scorching heat. The earth exploded as the black-robed man was smashed into the ground by the twisting heat. His fingers went numb, and he lost his grip on the jade bottle, sending it tumbling into the nearby woods. Wei Mengru aimed at the black-robed man's chest, the clear, sharp sound of her sword ringing out as she moved in for the kill. But just then, another one of the black-robed dude's buddies, locked in a furious battle with Mr. Ren in the distance, blasted the sword blade with a punch from afar. The pressure wave sent the blade careening off course, burying itself in the ground instead. Gongsun Xiong gulped down a pill. While his spiritual energy recovered, he kept his eyes glued to the black-robed guy. That chain could actually drain someone's spiritual energy. Seriously messed up, and he hadn't even absorbed that much energy. So why was he already feeling so drained? Could it be all those days with Bai Yuanfeng? In the hole, the black-robed man staggered to his feet. The guy was seriously tough. Even surrounded by 4 god-refining realm cultivators, he was still standing, ready to fight. He dusted himself off, glanced at Mu Zhian, and grinned, a nasty look in his eyes. "You really surprised me, Master Mu." He was clearly on the ropes, but he didn't seem bothered at all, his eyes shining with confidence. Something was definitely wrong. Mu Zhian frowned, studying the man. "I bet you don't know, do you? Heavenly Dao Qi doesn't just boost cultivation speed. Refine it, even temporarily, and it can catapult you up a whole level in a heartbeat. And only the luckiest folks get the Qi of Heaven's attention, and guess what? I'm the lucky one." The man stretched out his palm and bellowed, "Come on over." The jade bottle in the woods floated silently into the air. The jade bottle was a work of art, its surface intricately carved with complex patterns. This was the special bottle the black-robed man had prepped just to hold the energy of heaven, and now, its seal was broken. Inside, a milky white orb of light hovered between heaven and earth. Mu Zhian's eyes narrowed. "Don't let him swallow it." Boom. Fueled by the old guy inside him, Yu finally burst free of his black cocoon. His gaze locked onto the Qi of Heaven, a desperate hunger in his eyes. He reached out. "Get back here, now." But the Qi of Heaven just floated there, not budging an inch. The black-robed man sneered. "Like I said, the Qi of Heaven only picks people with insane luck. You just got lucky finding it. Doesn't mean you're luckier than me." Yu looked stunned, fury flickering in his eyes. With the old man piggybacking in his soul, he'd actually reached the god-refining realm. He lunged, snatching for the Qi of Heaven. The black-robed man snorted, and a dark chain lashed out, intercepting Yu, Heavenly Dao Qi. That was the real prize. Gongsun Xiong's eyes flashed with barely concealed greed. He reached for the Qi of Heaven. Mr. Tian stepped in front of Gongsun Xiong, a smile on his face. "Brother Gongsun, that heavenly energy is nice and all, but only the truly lucky can handle it. Don't be so impatient." Gongsun Xiong glared at the old man. "Get out of my way." Mr. Tian didn't move, his smile never wavering. "Let's deal with the enemy, the real owner of the Qi of Heaven, first. Then we'll sort things out. Fighting amongst ourselves plays right into his hands." Gongsun Xiong hesitated, then nodded. Fine, he knew the key was to stop the black-robed man from absorbing the energy of heaven. Who knew how strong that guy would get if he managed to pull it off? The 3 big guns moved in on the black-robed man. The black-robed man had no choice but to forget about the Qi of Heaven, because he had to contend with the 3 god-refining realm cultivators, and Wei Mengru, who was lurking to take him down. Then, out of nowhere, Yu slammed his foot down, launching himself towards the heavenly energy like a cannonball. the people fighting the black-robed dude were caught off guard for a split second. That moron! Gongsun Xiong swore, pulling away and planting himself between Yi Yu and the Chi of Heaven. Everyone was working their butts off to take down the black-robed guys, and Yi Yu was trying to swipe the Chi of Heaven. Did he think they were idiots? Yi Yu, back off! Gongsun Xiong barked. Yi Yu stared back, his eyes eerily calm. That's mine, senior. Step aside, please. Gongsun Xiong sneered. If it's yours, why isn't it rushing back to you? Yi Yu froze, his face hardening. That demon cultivator must have messed with it. The Chi of Heaven chose me a long time ago. The black-robed man's mocking laughter drifted from the distance. Haha, what are you talking about? Nobody makes the Chi of Heaven choose. It only picks those with the biggest luck. It just figured you weren't its best shot, and that's why it didn't come running back to you. He loved seeing them squabble. It gave him a chance to get away with something. The temptation of the Chi of Heaven was too great. These cultivators were holding back, wanting to save their strength for a chance to grab it later. Yi Yu said coldly, if you insist on blocking me, senior, I have no choice but to force my way through. As he spoke, Yi Yu's whole vibe changed. Gongsun Xiong's eyes narrowed. There seemed to be another soul inside Yi Yu, and it was now in control. Who are you? Gongsun Xiong demanded. Yi Yu didn't answer, but charged toward the Dao Qi. Gongsun Xiong blocked his path, slashing his flying sword at Yi Yu. Yi Yu flicked his hand, deflecting the sword. Imagine, a mere god-refining realm monk dares to challenge me. How times have changed. His voice was ancient, and even though his face was young, his cloudy eyes hinted at countless years of history. Gongsun Xiong scoffed. Whatever you were in your prime, you're just a soul now. You might be able to reach the god-refining realm by riding on Yi Yu's back, but how long will that last? Yi Yu glanced at Gongsun Xiong. You'll find out soon enough. The black-robed man's chains posed a serious threat to Yi Yu's soul, which limited what the old man inside Yi Yu could do. Yi Yu raised his right hand, and flames flickered to life in his palm. Gongsun Xiong's eyes narrowed as he watched the flames. He couldn't underestimate this. He focused his energy, ready for anything. Whoosh! Yi Yu lunged, blasting the flames towards Gongsun Xiong. The air crackled, explosions echoing. Mu Zhian, watching the chaos, finally frowned. If it hadn't been for Yi Yu, they'd have taken out the black-robed dude by now. If 4 god-refining realm cultivators ganged up, even a demonic cultivator would get wrecked. But thanks to Yi Yu and the lure of the heavenly Dao Qi, the situation was complicated. Still, it wasn't beyond his control. Mu Zhian tilted his head, looking at the Chi of Heaven and then at the distant sky. He was waiting for someone. That person should arrive any minute. Just then, Bai Ruoshi tugged at his sleeve, whispering, Master Mu, the Chi of Heaven, it feels connected to me. Mu Zhian stared at the girl, looking into her eyes. Really? Bai Ruoshi nodded. To prove her point, she raised a finger. The Chi of Heaven drifted slightly in her direction. Mu Zhian stared at Bai Ruoshi's face. Could she be the lucky one? But if that was true, why had the Chi of Heaven gone to Yi Yu first? Mu Zhian's eyes dropped to Bai Ruoshi's chest. A bronze trinket rested on her snowy skin. Had integrating that bronze changed her luck? Mu Zhian glanced at the black-robed man, surrounded and retreating, then at the other demonic cultivator, on the verge of being defeated by Wei Mengru. He made a decision. How far can you draw the heavenly Dao energy? Bai Ruoshi closed her eyes, sensing, and whispered, maybe 50 miles. That's enough. Mu Zhian nodded, taking Bai Ruoshi's hand. Come with me. He pulled her into the depths of Dragon Head Forest. As they moved, the Chi of Heavenly Dao flickered, ready to bolt. The black-robed man noticed. He looked at the aura of the Heavenly Dao with doubt and was about to stop it, but the 3 cultivators attacked together. The black-robed man had to give up. After a while, one of the demonic cultivators screamed. The black-robed man saw Wei Mengru's sword sticking out of his heart. Wei Mengru was panting, but her eyes were still cold. She pulled out her sword and flicked off the blood. Shouldn't you be paying attention here? Mr. Tian struck, smashing the black-robed man into the earth. The black-robed man coughed up blood, staring at the people in front of him, vowing to remember their faces. He turned into black mist and vanished. A dark snake watched the people coldly. It hissed, then slithered into a crack in the ground. The bandit suppression was over, and the black-robed men were defeated. They were definitely powerful demonic cultivators. Even when outnumbered, they managed to injure their enemies and drain their spiritual energy. Then, the guest of the Gongsun family looked at the air. The Qi of heaven is gone. Yi Yu and Gongsun Xiong stopped fighting and turned their heads to look. They couldn't believe their eyes. The heavenly Tao Qi had vanished into the forest. Dividing line Don't worry, there will be another big chapter later. The real protagonist is about to appear. Chapter 40 Without You, it #039, yes, very important to me 5K, 1/2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Deep in Dragonhead Forest, Mu Zhian led by Ruashi to a secluded cave. Inside, he pulled a paper crane from his ring and tossed it out. Bathed in the sunset's glow, it soared into the sky. Turning to Bai Ruashi, he asked, "Can you sense the heavenly Tao's aura here?" That he explained that with so many people around earlier, if she'd drawn it indirectly, they might have turned on her, making her a target. Even with the Mu family's help, it would have only benefited the black-robed guy. But here, no one would know who took it. "I'll try," Bai Ruashi said. Closing her eyes, a bronze sword materialized behind her, ancient and imposing. Almost instantly, Mu Zhian felt a warm light envelop the cave. A ball of milky white light floated in, illuminating the dim entrance, the Qi of heaven. She could attract it, but the sword was the key, right? It seemed the sword, not Bai Ruashi, was drawing the Qi of heaven. He could feel it swirling around the sword, intimately connected. Bai Ruashi opened her eyes and held out her palm. The Qi of heaven settled there, its warmth nurturing her veins. She squinted in pleasure. No wonder everyone craved this stuff. It could get anyone, even a pig, into the Qi training realm in no time. A genuine treasure. Bai Ruashi looked at the Qi of heaven, a hint of conflict in her eyes. Finally, she turned to Mu Zhian, holding out her palm. "Master Mu, I can't repay your kindness lately. If you want it, take it." Mu Zhian shook his head. Bai Ruashi frowned, about to protest. "Let's not rush to divvy it up just yet," Mu Zhian interrupted. "Whoever ends up with it, you need to absorb it first." Bai Ruashi raised an eyebrow, staring at him. "Why?" "Not the right time or place to explain," Mu Zhian said. "You'll get it when we're clear of here. Lingering too long would raise suspicion." Bai Ruashi didn't press, choosing to trust him after their time together. Honestly, if the timing were better, she'd ask Mu Zhian his angle. If he didn't even want the Qi of heaven, what did he want? She took a step forward, then froze, a cold sweat breaking out. She whipped around to face Mu Zhian. A black viper was fixed on him, cold-blooded, a demon in the refining spirit realm. Bai Ruashi's eyes widened. She yanked Mu Zhian back. Her bronze sword flashed out, aimed at the viper. *hiss, star. The viper spat venom, dodging the attack, hitting Bai Ruashi's shoulder. Before their eyes, the snake morphed into a human, the black-robed man, who faked his own death. His lips were pale, his energy chaotic, but his eyes were locked on them, specifically, Bai Ruashi. "Where's the Qi of heaven?" he demanded. Mu Zhian frowned, staring at the man blocking the cave entrance. "You're not dead." The man chuckled mirthlessly. "Almost. You nearly did me in, Master Mu. Even in the Qi training realm, you humans are sneaky. But you have tricks, and we have getaways." The man raised his head, his eyes cold. "Surprised, Master Mu?" His spiritual energy surged. Despite his injuries, the power of the refining spirit realm was clear. Bai Ruashi clutched her shoulder. A growing sense of helplessness pulsed through her. The venom. It was eating away at her spiritual energy, making it hard to even activate the bronze sword. "Don't bother struggling. The sword's a problem, but you're still just a Qi training novice. A few blocked meridians, and you're just a regular person." The man put his hands behind his back, eyes on Mu Zhian. Want to die quick, Master Mu, or experience a fate worse than death? Mu Zhian tilted his head. Is there really a difference? Hand over the chi of heaven, and I'll grant you a quick end. It's not here, Mu Zhian said, glancing behind the man scoffed. Think I'm an idiot? It's in your girlfriend's hands, right? If you won't hand it over, I'll just take it. He reached for Bai Ruashi, but Mu Zhian stepped in front of her, the man chuckled. A friend in need is a friend indeed, but what can you do, a measly chi training monk? Mu Zhian looked past him into the darkness, and smiled. I am useless. But, maybe you should look behind you. Trying to say the guys who just ganged up on me are here, he sneered. They think I'm dead. They're probably still looking for you all. That was his confidence. Demons could shed their skin to fake death, but this molt was only for emergencies. A refining spirit realm demon was already arrogant, and with their innate power, they rarely used this technique. Now, he was brought down by a kid in the chi training realm, but it was over now. No one would interfere. If you won't hand it over, I'll just take it myself. He raised his hand to grab Mu Zhian. But Mu Zhian just stood there. The man searched Mu Zhian's eyes for fear, wanting to see him crack, beg for mercy, but he saw nothing but indifference. What were you pretending for? Murder in his eyes. The man channeled his spiritual energy into a blade of nothingness. Asterisk clang. Star. A girl behind her blocked it with a sword. The man spun around. A woman in a moon-white dress stood at the cave entrance, her face veiled, her figure striking, her eyes like ice. Liang Yi sect. He whispered the name. The queen never dared to invade Dongzhou because of the Liang Yi sect. Every year, countless demons died at the hands of their disciples. Even the sky-swallowing python wasn't sure it could take on their leader. To demons, the Liang Yi sect was their deadliest enemy. Senior sister. Mu Zhian called out. Lan Mulian glanced at him, her meaning clear without a word. I'm not your senior sister. Her eyes landed on the man, her voice clear and cold. A demon at the foot of Liang Yi sect. How bold. He flinched, backing away, turning into black mist, ready to escape. Lan Mulian raised a finger. Light enveloped him, forming a cage. The light felt scalding, and the man struggled in vain. Injured, he was no match for her, and only a cornered beast. Lan Mulian ignored him, her eyes flitting over by Ruashi to Mu Zhian. A smile played behind her veil. Looks like I came at the right time. She held out her left hand, revealing a paper crane, the one Mu Zhian tossed out. It led her here. Thank you, senior sister, Mu Zhian said. If he hadn't written a letter inviting her, he and Bai Ruashi might have been done for. It paid to cozy up to senior sister. Lan Mulian acknowledged him, and Mu Zhian pressed on. What are you going to do with him? Demons are crafty. I can't hold him for long, Lan Mulian said softly. Needs to be taken care of quick. The roaring in the cage had stopped. The man had given up, or passed out. I want to talk to him first, Mu Zhian said. Lan Mulian nodded. I'll keep him contained. She opened the cage. As Mu Zhian entered, Lan Mulian glanced at Bai Ruashi. The girl was watching her. They exchanged a look and then looked away. The atmosphere was awkward. Inside the cage, Mu Zhian approached the black-robed man. He couldn't see his face, but he could sense his resignation. He'd thought Tianxian City would be a cakewalk. He'd even investigated and picked Mu Zhian, a playboy who'd be easy to manipulate, but he'd been outplayed by a junior. Master Mu, I underestimated you, the man said. Even in the chi training realm, you've got the kind of mind the queen needs. Mu Zhian raised an eyebrow. Trying to recruit me, the man spoke calmly. Join us, and I'll get you a seat. You could become the queen's right hand. Mu Zhian sat down opposite him. I'm not interested in the demon clan because I'm human. The man sneered. Are humans better? Infighting, corruption. People dying from droughts and floods every year, the court doing nothing. The court's a mess. If not for the Liang Yi sect, the queen would control Dongzhou. Humans are no better. Human hearts are scarier than demons. Mu Zhian didn't deny it. But I don't want to move all the way to Beizhou. Too far from Tianxian City. Besides, think I'd believe anything you say right now? Mu Zhian asked. The man was silent. They were enemies, trying to kill each other. No one would believe a sudden invitation. Actually, it's kind of relaxing talking to you, Mu Zhian said. The man was startled, but Mu Zhian went on, because you have no brain. This demon was so strong, he didn't bother with tricks. Simple purpose, simple words. It was refreshing to deal with a bad guy this honest. The chi of heaven, that's what the beautiful snake wants. Mu Zhian asked, referring to the queen. Hearing this insult, the man snapped his head up, murderous intent in his eyes, but he met Mu Zhian's indifferent gaze and calmed down. Master Mu got rid of Yi Yu and brought back the beauty. What next? Kill Yi Yu or marry Bai Ruoshi, but he wasn't giving up any demon secrets. Mu Zhian knew it, and shook his head. Won't kill Yi Yu. No plans to get married, either. You don't want Yi Yu's life, and you don't want Bai Ruoshi, so what do you want? The man demanded. Mu Zhian met his eyes and smiled. I want you dead.